Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown, and welcome to my show. And today I'm going to be talking about Noah Presgrove. And was it a bad accident, or did he have really bad friends? This has been an ongoing case since 2023. On Labor Day weekend was when he passed away. There's been all kinds of internet speculation, shall we say, and speculation in the major media as well. And I have a strong opinion on this, and so I'm going to try to get that information to you and break it down so it makes logical sense as to what most likely is the conclusion that I came to, and why I think my conclusion, I will give myself a 90% chance of being correct on my conclusion. And of course, I can always be wrong, and there are people who will certainly disagree with me. And that's the way the world works until you can prove something in a court of law. And right now, this case is undetermined. And it should be undetermined, by the way. I agree with that. So anyway, I want to welcome everybody who is here in the chat room. I think I said hello to most of you just before the show started. Lisa just rolled in. Hi, Lisa. If you would like to be in the chat room, please do join Patreon. The link is below. It's $5 a month. There are 8 live shows that you can be part of and be in the chat room. They're patron-only lives, and also we have a community, so you can be part of that. And we have a nice community. People really want to understand profiling and crime scene analysis, and I appreciate that. You don't have to join Patreon if you don't want to, or you don't have any money, because these days a lot of us don't. You can just subscribe to the channel. That's free, and all of my videos are public. So once the live part is over, usually about a week later, they all become public. And then I have other videos I put up as well. So I want people to learn and not say, well, you know, I couldn't afford it, so therefore, no. All of my analyses are public, because that serves a purpose, in my opinion. So, all right, now. Taylor says $5 a month is a steal. Hi, Taylor, for Pat's content. Well, everybody gets my content for zero money, but you do have to put up with ads if you're not willing to pay YouTube extra money to not deal with the ads, which is what I do, because I spend too much time on YouTube to waste my time on the ads. But, you know, but that is how people like me who provide content earn a living. And if we don't earn a living, we're not going to be here. But also, the support of patrons is fantastic. So, also, before I start, I just want to mention, because I have to plug my own stuff, I have a fairly new channel. It's not 4 months in, and it's a different kind of thing. It's Dear Profiler Pat, and people, this is like Dear Abby, but a little bit more in depth and a little bit more, I would say, right to the truth. And people send in questions, and then I answer them. And this one here, for example, is, should I go to my high school reunion? I never went to mine. My God, no. But some people would find their high school reunion a good experience. All depends on your high school experience. But anyway, all right. Now that I've done my promo stuff, let's get to this case. All right. I'm going to read you the Daily Mail. It's kind of funny. Some people call it the Daily Fail, has done a lot of coverage of the Noah Presgrove case. And it is so detailed. It is, I mean, it's like pages and pages and pages long, which for a media outlet is in some ways impressive. And I do like the Daily Mail because in crime cases, they do provide a tremendous amount of details and oftentimes facts that nobody else will provide. So I don't hate the Daily Mail. But everybody who tried to read their stuff is like, oh my God, I'm so confused because there's so many people involved and there's so much information, I've just lost my mind. So I'm not going to read very much from the Daily Mail, although I'm going to use a little bit. But I'm going to use this to start with. This site called Vocal Media, written by Sally A., whoever she is. But thank you, Sally. And a little bit purple prose, in my opinion. But hey, I don't know. Everybody writes in their own style. But the basic information I wanted to give you is at least who he is or was. The tragic and perplexing death of Noah Presgrove, a beloved young athlete from Comanche, Oklahoma, has left a small town community searching for answers. And this is very, very true. They are searching for answers because most people think something nefarious did happen, and especially his family. And so, and because this is an undetermined case, that always keeps things rolling, especially for YouTubers who can make a lot of money off of that. As the investigation unfolds, questions remain about what really happened during the fateful Labor Day weekend that ended with Noah's body being found along a rural highway, like right there. This article explores the circumstances of his life, his untimely death, and the search for truth in this baffling case. So anyway, who was Noah? Just to let you know who he was, a student at Comanche High School. He graduated, he excelled as an athlete, participated in football, cross country, track, and wrestling. He remained humble and was known for his laid-back, friendly demeanor. I want to point this last part out because this is really important when you're trying to analyze a case as to victimology. What kind of guy was Noah? Well, he is this guy, but he's also this guy. This is the drunk guy. This is the non-drunk guy. So, one of the things we have to do when we're analyzing cases is to understand that we have a basic personality, and then we have what happens when we're in other certain circumstances, and the ones you wish nobody videoed and put on their Facebook page, some of you've seen a lot of those where somebody's like gotten drunk and passed out and somebody puts a mustache on them or something, that kind of thing. And it's like there forever, because in today's world, it is there forever. It's concerning. So I've always found it kind of funny because now I've traveled around the world a lot. And I remember being in, where the heck was it? Guatemala at Lake Atitlan in this town. And I got off to stay at this place. And immediately people started offering me weed. And because it was legal there, and it was kind of a hippie place. I didn't know that, but now I do. Anyway, I was offered all this weed, and I'm like, first of all, I haven't smoked weed since I was really young. That would be 19, 20. And I wasn't a big partaker of that. It wasn't my thing, but so here I was older as a profile. I was a criminal profile at the time. I saw I'm down there in Guatemala and they're offering me this. I'm thinking, I haven't tried that in 30 years. It's legal. And then I'm thinking, it'll be my luck that somebody will just pull out a camera, video me, and that'll be on YouTube and Facebook forever. Profile Pat Brown. So the problem is people are who they are in many circumstances. I just want to point that out because Noah was a successful guy in high school, had a lot of friends. He was going to join the military, but he partied. And when he partied, unfortunately for him, partying became what ended his life, okay? But was it his personality or was it partying? And the important thing about the personality, I want to repeat this. He remained humble and was known for his laid-back, friendly demeanor. Every person I saw in all the gossipy crap, which I'm not going to share all the gossipy crap because this is not a gossip channel, they liked him. They all said he was a nice guy, that he was easygoing. And that's important because sometimes we get in trouble because our personalities aren't easygoing, like we're confrontational. We're fighters or whatever we are. Apparently that wasn't him. So that's important to understand that if somebody wants to do him in, why? When he's an easygoing guy. So keep that in mind. All right. Teachers and coaches remember him as a free spirit who saw the world differently from his peers. His cross-country coach described him as a good kid, fun to be around. And he was called loyal and dedicated as an athlete. He's popular, known for his humor and kindness. He's formed strong bonds with his siblings and friends. He could go to his high school reunion and have a good time. I wouldn't have gotten those accolades. That's kind of the untouchable in high school. Well, anyway, this guy was not. This guy was a likable fella. And I think that's important to know. And then it talks about his family life, and I'm not going to get into his family life because it's immaterial to this whole thing. So he was going to join the military. Let's stay with that. All right, the fateful weekend, and this is where things get interesting. Labor Day weekend 2023 marked the beginning of a tragic turn in Noah's life. Well, tragic turn to like he died. That was, yeah. He attended a birthday party for his friend Avery Joe Combs, which was expected to last several days. This was supposed to be like a 4-day party. The Combs family, well known in the area, hosted the party at their home in Terral, Oklahoma. Apparently, they weren't around. I don't quite understand this whole issue, but anyway, he was an adult, but some of the people who were at the party were not adults. They were juveniles, shouldn't have been drinking. They were there drinking. There were like 40 people that came to the party. For 4 days, people were trash drunk. Okay, and I like the term trash drunk because one of the most important things when you're trying to determine what happened is to also understand what condition the people were in that were there. When people are trash drunk, their memories suck. Their understanding of time sucks. Maybe they don't remember anything and they make it up. So people were really drinking a lot. So let me just throw a little background up for that. Like this. I don't know what the thing with the tongue these days is. It's like everybody's got it. I don't know. But anyway, here he is with the girls and with his friends. They're all like half naked, still dressed, but I don't know why the guys have to show their chests off. But anyway, they do. Not that built. So anyway, but teenagers, even though he's like, he's an adult now, but still in the teens, a lot of stupid behavior. Just is. It's a lot of stupid behavior. And if we all look back, we might recognize that. Thank God there wasn't a video camera when I was out there, when I was this early 70s, pictures weren't taken that much. So thank God there's really just, I don't have any of those pictures or videos when I was that age. But they all do. So the problem is everybody's got the phone. So everything is kind of memorialized in this way. But clearly it was a party of a lot of drinking, a lot of stupid behavior. They had so let's see what it says here. So it's a birthday party. Noah initially had a good time, but tensions arose and became involved in several altercations with friends. And when they say altercations, I think these are mostly drunk tiffs, shall we say. Reportedly, the party involved heavy drinking. Yeah, it did. Roughhousing. Yeah, it did. And a game referred to as Fight Club. And they were doing things like the whole thing where you slap each other in the face. Like they're like, here they're hanging around. That's the girl. I think she slapped him in the face. There's videos of this. So it's like, oh, how hard can you slap me in the face? I mean, this is a new thing. I don't get it, but all right. So then Noah had a disagreement with his friend Jack Newton. And this is going to play a big part in this whole thing. Let me show you who Jack is, because Jack ends up being the boogeyman in this entire saga. It's his best friend since he's been a child. So Jack Newton has grown up with him. They're best buddies, but they had this disagreement apparently over a girl, which escalated into a physical altercation. And when they say physical altercation, I don't even know what that actually means. Supposedly he was like, I think Noah was like drunk and sitting in a corner with like his girlfriend and chit chatting. He's like, "What are you doing?" I don't know. I don't know the circumstances. Again, I'm not going to do the gossip. And so the might be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" That kind of thing. But both people are drunk, and maybe the girl's drunk too. So everybody's just drunk. I don't consider that serious. That despite these conflicts, friends described Noah as a fun-loving, loyal friend who did not hold any grudges. Okay, and especially with his best buddy, Jack. All right, so now let's go back to what happened to Noah. All right, so yeah. On the morning of September 4th, 2023, Noah's body was discovered on the side of Highway 81 in rural Jefferson County, Oklahoma. All right, so this is that's where it's at. Okay, here we go. So that's where the party house is. The The party house was at that location, and you can see his body was found just not very far away. I call it 2 blocks, but we're talking about those are really long blocks. So, but 2 long country blocks to where his body was found, but not that far away. So that's where he ended up. And he did end up, his body was on the road, on the edge of the road, with some teeth in the circular spaces. And his body was between those 2 curved lines, hard to see, but on the side of the road. And the two circles, I think, I'm not sure if they're both teeth or 1 tooth and something else, but anyway, that's where he's found. Now, a passing trucker reported finding him lying in a fetal position. The fetal position thing was overdone. He really wasn't in a fetal position. He was just lying on his side, basically. Wearing mismatched shoes. That is true. One was his shoe and one was his friend's shoe. And this actually is important in the analysis. And suffering from severe injuries. Oh, yes, he was. I mean, I'll get into all the injuries. A whole lot of injuries. Initially, law enforcement suspected a hit-and-run accident. Well, he's on the side of a road where it could be easily a hit-and-run accident. If he was walking along and got whacked, whatever, it could be a hit-and-run accident. So they initially suspected that, but as details emerged, the case became increasingly suspicious. Now, I want to stop here to say, when people say stuff, sometimes at the scene, supposedly, let's see who said, I think it was a sheriff who said it was suspicious. And I think some like medical examiner, somebody had seen supposedly, and this is all gossipy stuff, so that's why I'm not getting into it heavily, but I want to point this out, that I didn't think it was a hit and run. So here we have 2 people saying, could be something else. Now, could it be something else? Absolutely. And should they consider something else? Absolutely. Because they should keep everything open. It's a brand new scene. You don't know. You haven't gone through the whole autopsy. You don't know all the details. You haven't interviewed everybody. You don't know what you're looking at yet. The problem I have is when people say, oh, see, this is what they said. I don't know that they said that, and I don't know that they said that in the context that other people think they said it in. And having done a lot of television work, I can tell you, a lot of people will miss half of a sentence, or if you're doing television and you're doing a taped interview, they will cut part of your sentence. So if somebody asks me, do you think it could be a serial killer? And I might say, well, chances are it's not a serial killer, but it could be a serial killer. They cut the first part. So I say it could be a serial killer. Or I could say 99% chance it's not a serial killer, but hey, there's always a chance it could be a serial killer. And then they'll just put that part. And in this case, it wasn't videoed or anything, but people remember, they're saying, this is what I heard. And you just don't know whether they're taking it out of context, or also sometimes people run their mouths who shouldn't run their mouths at scenes, like law enforcement, medical examiners. You do not discuss things with anybody. You're there to do a job, not to illuminate your thoughts. But sometimes, humans are human. And sometimes they open their mouths when they shouldn't. And they may just be thinking out loud, oh, it could be this. Doesn't mean that they are going to end up thinking that's what it is, but they say it out loud. And therefore, that fuels people thinking certain things that maybe turn out to be true, but maybe not. So this is where now there becomes what happened. All right. The autopsy report comes in. The autopsy report revealed significant details about his injuries, which were consistent with severe blunt force trauma. I've looked at the autopsy. He died of severe blunt force trauma. No question about that. The cause of death was severe blunt force trauma. That's unquestionable. The manner of death is where the issue comes in. How did he get the blunt force trauma? I'll read you what she says here, and I'm going to show you some stuff on it. The report noted abrasions on his face, head, and torso, with several of his teeth knocked out. And the teeth knocked out thing is very important. Internal injuries included damage to his lungs, heart, spleen, and stomach, along with significant internal bleeding. Despite the severity of his injuries, the manner of death was listed as undetermined, highlighting the complexity of the case. Okay, I'll give you credit there, Sally. But I'll say this: severity of injuries never tells you what the manner of death is. That doesn't prove manner of death. Manner of death shows you is how you got those injuries. So, for example, a person is found on the pavement from a 30-story building, and they went out the 22nd story. Blunt force trauma is going to be what they died of when they pancaked into the cement. Well, how do they go out the window? That's where the problem comes in. Manner of death: suicide, accident, homicide. All three are possible. Somebody said, I'm done with this, and they jumped out the window. Or they're like, I have some stupid people, believe me, I've seen it, like sitting on the windowsill, drunk or whatever. This happens on cruise ships too. They just fall off, accidental death. Or somebody goes, and then it's a homicide. So see, that's what I'm saying. The manner of death is much more complicated, because just because you know how they died doesn't mean you know what No, let me put that way, a different way. Just because you know what the cause of death was, you don't know exactly how they died, what the manner of death is. All right. Medical experts reviewing the report have suggested the injuries could have resulted from a severe beating, a high-impact fall, or being struck by a vehicle. But the absence of vehicle debris or tire marks at the scene has led to speculation about other causes. This is true. They did not find, if he was hit by a vehicle, they did not find broken pieces like, the bumper or glass or anything at the scene. They searched pretty long distance and found nothing. They did not see tire prints, tire marks, like somebody slammed on the brakes, the skidding, or tire marks on his body. They didn't see that. So that made people say, maybe it's not a vehicular accident. Maybe something else happened. The lack of conclusive evidence has made it challenging for investigators to determine exactly how Noah sustained such catastrophic injuries. That is correct. So they have challenges in their investigation. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation quickly became involved, labeling Noah's death as suspicious. However, conflicting stories from partygoers and a lack of physical evidence have complicated the investigation. That is correct. I think I'm getting to like Sally's. There's a couple things here Sally did, which I'm like, I wasn't fond of her writing, but I'm getting to like it better by the moment. Sorry, Sally. Initial thought. And I just feel bad. Okay, so Noah's family has expressed frustration with the slow progress, suspecting that some party attendees may know more than they're admitting. And this is where the internet has gone berserk, and where there's tons of gossip everywhere with people from the parties. There are 40 of them, although all 40 aren't participating in the gossip, but they are putting up commentary on, comments on Facebook and texts and everything. So you got a whole bunch of teenagers, and therefore, how much of it's true, how much of it's not? Are some people just starting trouble? Are some people having confused memories? Are some people telling the truth? We don't know. And that's why I won't get into all the gossip. Despite multiple interviews and attempts to piece together the timeline of events, law enforcement has struggled to identify what led to Noah's death. Well, we don't know that. They have said it's undetermined, proving it, and they may have strong beliefs exactly what happened, but they can't go public with stuff unless they can prove it. Rumors and speculation have circulated, true, but concrete answers remain elusive, maybe or maybe not. Again, we don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Investigators have considered the possibility that Noah was involved in an ATV accident, I'll get to that, earlier that night, which could explain some of the injuries, which is true, but this theory has not been confirmed because it's impossible to confirm it. So I will get into the exact moment of what happened during that night. He was in an ATV rollover crash, and he could have sustained injuries that could have either confused what we see as at his final death, or be contributing to his final death. And we just that I'm telling you, when you're looking at multiple injuries, it's not as easy as people think. I mean, it's obvious you got a gunshot to the back of the head. Pretty much think you've been murdered. But when you get a gunshot here, have you been murdered? Or did you commit suicide? And then if you have, let's say you've got a gun and it's like it's sometimes shot in the chest. It was an accident because you're cleaning the gun. You're stupid. I mean, so sometimes things are, it can be very simple or it can be difficult. Obviously, if you've been shot from 20 feet, probably you didn't pull the trigger. Those things are easier. If you've been stabbed in the back a bunch of times in the neck and head, like a woman in Pennsylvania, probably it's not a suicide, even if they label it that. Right. So there's easier ones and there's more difficult ones. And there was so much damage to his body, it's hard to say if anything came before or only at the point of time that he ended up here. All right, so they're searching for answers. Conclusion: death of Noah Presgrove is a tragedy, left his family and community searching for answers. As the investigation unfolds, questions about the events of that fateful weekend continue to linger. That's true. Search for truth and justice remains a priority for his family, who hopes one day they'll find the closure they desperately seek. Okay, so, and they are seeking, believe you me, they are putting out justice for Noah, and they're also putting out this: please help me. They're looking for tips. They're looking for people to confess, essentially. And I will have to say, the majority of people out there are pointing at, where'd it go? Lost him. Second. Oh, there he is. Pointing at his friend Jack. Jack has, by the way, just to let you know, has been through a polygraph, passed it, supposedly talked to everybody, talked to police, everybody. And he's pretty upset because he thinks that, not only do he lose his friend, but they're targeting him. And he says people are saying all these things. And he's on here, News Nations, and he's saying, this is worse. This is the worst time of my life. My friend died. And now not only did I lose my best friend, people are accusing me of killing him. Why did they do that, you ask? All right. So now I want to read you the moments before he died, theoretically, so that you can understand. Okay. So basically what's happening here is he's gone to the party, right? He's hanging out at the party, having a good time. It's a 4-day party. So, I mean, they've partied, they've gone home, they've partied again, they've gone home. The supposed issue he had with his friend was the day before this even happened. So, they were back together again, having fun, cuddling up. And I don't know if that's Jack or not. I can't tell. I got face blindness. I don't know who. I know one of them is him. Not sure who the other guy is. All right. The ATV accident is coming from Daily Mail. The story of the ATV accident is so universally agreed upon that it made it into the autopsy report, along with Presgrove coming out of it unscathed. Earlier that night, he was riding in an ATV and he flipped it. But then after that, he was just hanging out at the house. And this is from Stephanie, one of the girls who was there. Now, so they had been partying. And then in the middle of the night, I think it was actually his friend Jack's ATV. And you're like, oh yeah, it says here, Jack, who owned the ATV, said it happened after he went to bed at 1:50 a.m. I took my keys out, and apparently Noah came to my room and grabbed them while I was asleep. A bunch of people went and drove the Ranger and wrecked it. And they think that Noah was actually driving it. So some people say, well, see, Jack was pissed off because Noah wrecked his ATV. But I think there was enough money in that Noah could have just fixed his friend's ATV. I don't think that was a motive for murder. Let me put it that way. All right. So he flipped it. Supposedly what happened? Let's see. He turned it on its side and they flipped it back on its wheels. And then they all came back. So at that point in time, Noah was alive and he was with a bunch of people. So this is important, with a bunch of people. So we're running about 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the morning, all drunk, probably. And Noah, could he have sustained damage? And this is a question that some of the medical examiners have questioned. Could he have sustained some damage at that point in time? Possibly. He could have had a contusion. He could have a brain bleed. He could have had something happen to his lungs. I mean, things could have happened to him and he doesn't realize it yet because also he's drunk. So, drunk people don't realize a lot. So now what happens? Jack said he went to bed early because he's going fishing in the next morning. And a lot of people claim that he was making up the fishing thing. But all right. Presgrove is generally agreed to be the one driving when it flipped. And though he wasn't injured, that we know of, but maybe he was dirtied from when it hit the ground. Carter and Jasmine Milan are said to have helped him to shower and get the dirt off of him because he was too drunk to do it himself. Okay, so there's an interesting thing. So the day before, the girls were like, oh, I don't have the picture. The girls were like writing stuff on his butt, like making pictures and stuff on his butt. And that stuff all disappeared from the day before. And there's a whole bunch of conspiracy theories about how those things disappeared. And he had a little stick figure on his like hip or something. But anyway, I think this has zero to do with how he died. So I think it's just nonsense. But these girls apparently helped him bathe in a shower because he was drunk. So they're holding him up. They were, so you wonder why girls are taking care of a male in a shower. But they were. So anyway, they helped him shower because he was too drunk to stand up by himself. He had black shorts on. And apparently those black shorts were not on him while he was showering. And they took him off because I guess he was a muddy mess. And I'm going to say the muddy mess problem was that they didn't want him rolling around the house and sitting on the couch. And, you know, this was somebody's parents' house. And they didn't want him mudding up the house. Understandable. And he, you know, or laying in a bed or something and putting mud everywhere. So they're like, get in the shower. So they helped him clean up. There seems to be no argument over this. Then, all right. Then what happens is, okay, they clean off the dirt. After showering, his friend said Presgrove put on a different pair of shorts. I guess because the other ones were like messed, dirty, and I don't know, they just threw them in a laundry basket or they could have just thrown them in the shower, let them soak and whatever. But they gave him, he was wearing black. They gave him a pair of white, loose-fitting wrestling shorts. And this is important. Just because I want to point out something about, let's see a couple pictures of him. Ooh, let me see if I can find some pictures of him that I want to I want to show you. He's not, maybe here, he's this way. That guy does not have a big butt. Let's put it that way. He's not, it's like, if you give him a pair of loose-fitting wrestling shorts that aren't his, slightly a size bigger, the chances that they would either fall off or come off in an altercation or in a motor vehicle situation is reasonable to think because they're not fitting well. It's also possible he could be walking along and those things kept falling down. He said, oh, he's drunk. He's screw it. He steps out of them and just carries them along with him. That's also possible. We don't know, and there was this whole thing about, oh, you know, when he was found, somebody said he was wearing black and he was really wearing the, it's like, and then all this stuff about how things were changed up at the scene. Nobody was changing up anything at the scene. There's some really ridiculous things like, well, I think it was, did they say, was it Mark's father? Like came to the scene and threw his teeth into the scene. And that's why the teeth were there. Who does that? No, that's not happening. Okay. So if his teeth are found at the scene, the question is, why were they at the scene? And I'm going to get into this as part of my analysis. So anyway, so now he's got these loose-fitting white shorts on. Presgrove soon after argued with Avery, one of the girls, after he asked to sleep in her bed, and she refused and told him he had to sleep on the floor because she wasn't his girlfriend. So, but he was drunk. So he's like, oh, lay in the bed, man. She's like, you're not laying in the bed, you're laying on the floor. She told him he couldn't sleep in her bed because he messed with her friend the night before. Jack told a friend earlier this year. I don't know if that's true. Now, Jack may be making that up, or maybe the friend was making it up. The argument upset him. But again, he's drunk. Understand. He's drunk, and people do stupid things and oh, that pissed me off, man. So anyway, he walked, and supposedly he wandered off into the night to cool off, never to be seen again alive. So that was the last time he supposedly was seen. So it seems that the ATV accident happened, the showering thing happened, and there are witnesses that seem to actually say he walked off into the night. And apparently what happened was he just wanted to clear his head, and he was just like, I'm just going to walk away, somewhere between 3:15 and 3:30. Now, he was found on the side of the road with only a pair of shoes on, his shorts having fallen off on the middle of the road nearby. Either they fell off on the road, they fell off while he was walking, so he just held them in his hands, or third, some people say somebody threw them in the road. There's all kinds of theories on that. The two different shoes, one was his Adidas slip-on, and the other was a Hey Dude branded slip-on. Presgrove couldn't find his other shoe, so he impulsively pulled on one he found laying around the house because everybody's drunk and walking around on bare feet. So he couldn't find his other shoes. So he just put on two different shoes and walked out of the house. And I think it's extremely important because it shows the state of mind he's in. So he just walked off, basically putting on the shoes willy-nilly, and if he were going, let's say somebody did something to him, they would have to do something to him after he put the shoes on. I don't think anybody who did something to him is going to put just two different pairs of shoes on his feet. Some people think that. I think that's silly. So I believe up until that point, he was alive, walked out of the house on his own accord with the white shorts that were loose and not his, and the pair of shoes, which weren't a pair. Okay. What happened to him after that is where the issue comes in. So then, let's see. Her son, one woman said, "Oh, those are my son's shoes. He was asleep on the couch." Okay, so let's see. Okay, so then Presgrove friends said that he had a habit of wandering off from social gatherings, and for a while they didn't think that night was any different. So Jasmine posted a selfie at 3:41 and said, "Well, Noah's missing." And now that's become a big, huge thing. I was like, well, she knew back then that something had already happened to him. No, she knew that he wasn't around. She's like, where is he? Wandered off and he's missing. I don't think that's nefarious, as many people think. She said, I just wanted to make clear. I posted this picture not knowing the worst was going to happen, not knowing Noah would never come back. She's like, it was normal for Noah to wander off, so nobody had thought a thing of it. I was just clueless, and I thought, where is he? He's wandered off. They were just doing teenage-y talk. All right. So anyway, it goes on, and eventually they find his body in the road. So I'll stop there. Okay. So that's what happened. Now Noah is in the road. Okay. He's in the road. There. And he's dead. But what happened to him? Massive blunt force trauma. Did somebody do something to him? Did many people do something to him? The family says they believe they're willing to accept that a fight broke out because there were silly old tiff fighting type things, anyway, fight clubby things, that some kind of fight broke out and they killed him accidentally, not on purpose, and that then they didn't know what to do. So they either drove over there and tossed his body into the road, or they put his body on the side of the road. Family's willing to accept that it wasn't on purpose. He wasn't killed on purpose, that it was an accident. But they don't seem to be willing to accept that it really actually was truly an accident, that he was walking down the road and got hit by a vehicle. They don't believe that. And this comes down to a lot of things I've often said, that families are more willing to believe in homicide than an accident or suicide. Now, sometimes the family is right. So in this situation, is the family correct that his injuries could not have been caused by a motor vehicle, and that something else happened to him? And what do the experts say? So I'll get into that in just a second. I'll just check in on some of your comments because I've been talking for quite a while. Cauliflower is here. Hi, Cauliflower. Let's see. Fritza says, I feel like I didn't make good decisions until age 23. At that point, my decisions improved. Before that, I was easy to influence. I want to point this out to you. That's a great comment. I never forgot this case. I was up in Pennsylvania working on a case, working with the sheriff's department, a police chief. No, it was police chief there. And I remember what he said to me. And I like this guy. He said, I spend more of my time as a police chief trying to help young men not do stupid stuff. Because he said the saddest thing is, he said they do dumb stuff, the drugs, the drinking, the fast driving. He says, and they get themselves killed before the age where they won't do the stupid stuff anymore. And he says, I just keep trying to get them through that stupid period so they get to the point where they move on in life and aren't so foolish. And so they have the rest of their lives ahead of them. And he said, that's my most important mission. I'm like, this is a guy, small town, and more so than solving crimes, he felt his biggest mission was to save young men from themselves because he wanted to see them grow up. I just think he was just the nicest guy ever. Yeah, it makes me teary. I tell you. I heard a teen's brain isn't fully developed until age 23. there's two sides to this. I want to say, some people will use that for psychopathy as well. It's like, well, just because they murdered their entire family at the age of 16, it was because their brain wasn't fully developed. No, that's nonsense. Because you do dumb stuff, but the one thing you don't do is something that is so immoral, so repugnant, so not something anybody else does. That's not normal. So, when I'm looking at my own kids, I'm like, not once in a million years could I imagine my kids doing something like carjacking with a gun, killing their friends, shooting their family. No, that's way over the line. Could they do something dumb, like maybe shoplift, although they didn't? But could they have gone in a store one day and say, I really like this, I don't have the money? Okay, I can go with that. Could they get drunk? Could they drive too fast? Could they drive drunk because they thought they could drive? Yes. That's not psychopathy. But if you plan to murder your entire family, that isn't anything to do with your brain not growing up enough by the time it's 23. There's a difference. Even a young child knows that that's wrong. And the fact that a psychopath simply doesn't care that it's wrong. So, but stupid behavior, oh yeah. We're all lucky we're still alive. That's all I can say. Let's say, that's a good. And Rainey says, "Hi, Rainey. I don't think he lost his teeth from being beaten. I'm curious to see what Pat thinks." Theoretically, could he lose his teeth from being beaten? Surely. It could be punched. He could have something strike him in the mouth. He could fall and crack his teeth on something. There's a lot of reasons he could have lost his teeth while being beaten. The question is, how did his teeth end up on the road? And the only explanation some people have is that the dad of one of the kids came up and chucked his teeth into the road. In other words, trying to plant the teeth at the crime scene in order to make it look like he was struck at the crime scene and lost his teeth at that location. So some of the interesting parts about this is, well, did somebody plant the teeth at the crime scene, or did his teeth fall out of the crime scene? Or, now mind you, let me talk about crime scenes. Is this a primary crime scene, or is this a secondary crime scene? Because those are two different things. So a primary crime scene is where it all happened, where the person lost their life. Boom. That would be here if you were hit by a motor vehicle, and that's the only thing that happened. However, if he were attacked earlier, beaten up someplace, that would be their initial crime scene. This would be a secondary crime scene where his body was dumped. So we don't know yet whether this is a primary or a secondary crime scene. So we're still waiting on that one. Wait a minute. Maybe you're on Vandersloot's dead father planted the teeth. Now, dog. Maybe. It did help urine, I believe, but I'm not sure he was over there in Oklahoma. Now, I want to point out how this case has gone across the internet and what really bugs me about it. All right, so we have People Magazine. What really happened to Noah Presgrove? So shocking death, new clues on teen's shocking death. And what bothers me about this whole thing is that if you're going to analyze a crime that you do not know entirely what the manner of death is, you purposely are putting the manner of death being a homicide without even considering. That's what you're trying, and that's what gets people to read the article. That's it. What really happened. So they're insinuating that what really happened is something more nefarious than him being hit by a vehicle. Is it possible? Yes. But I'm bothered by the take. There's so much take. Here's this guy's YouTube, the twisted case of Noah Presgrove. Really? And then he specifically says, beaten by his friends and dumped on the highway. You got 390,000 views. And here he even says, naked, beaten, and alone. I guarantee you I'll be lucky to get 3,000 views. 3,000 views on this video. He gets 390,000 views. Why? Because he is making a claim right up front without being a profiler, a detective, or anything else, or having any proof that he was beaten by his friends and dumped on the side of the road. That's pretty, well, probably libelous. But he gets 390,000 views out of it. Now, I will say that Stephanie Harlow was a little bit cagier. She said, "Was this a hit and run?" Okay. I'm okay with her title, because mine is bad accident or bad friends. Hers is, was this a hit and run? She got 245,000 views, while Stephanie Harlow's huge. So anyway, she's, again, very cagey. She brings in a lot of different clips from shows with different medical examiners, ex-detectives, and so on and so forth. And she's clearly pushing that he was murdered by his friends. She's pushing it, but she's not saying it. And then she gets in and she goes, I mean, it could have been a vehicular thing, but Now, so all the media definitely has gone for this is the friends have killed him, especially his best friend. Could this have happened? I can't prove that it didn't happen. But I want to say, can I prove it did happen? Let me look at the evidence. All right. I want to point out, before I go on to the exact evidence, some of the things that were said about this case. Brought up. This is Stephanie Harlow. This guy, his name is, shoot, what's his name? Because it's okay. It's from the Daily Mail. They got this guy named, where is his name? Okay, here. Is this it? Okay. It's a incredibly long article. They aren't kidding about this, how long the article is. I want to be sure I had the guy's name correctly. Oh my God, it's a long article. It's like goes on forever. It's insane. I mean, in a way, it's kind of cool because they really put a lot of effort into it. I'll give them that. What the heck is it? I know his name was in this article. I just wanted to get the name correct. All right, I'm gonna have to go to Stephanie's channel, and I think it's over here, just so I can have the proper name. Oh, come on. All right, hold on. There we go.
Familiar with this case.
You can hear. Okay. All right, let me see. His name is, hold on, I got to pull up the transcript. And his name was, come on, that's fine. Okay. All right, she goes here to say that she went to this guy from Dr. Stuart Fisher is the author of the little book of big medical emergencies. He's also an internist with an intensive experience in emergency medicine. He is not a forensic pathologist, but he's got an opinion, and the Daily Mail found him. And one of the problems we have with all media is they find whom they want to find. And so I credit Stephanie in the fact that she used different people, but I find it also interesting which people she chose to represent this case. Anyway, so this guy. So he says these things, Stuart Fisher. The poor kid never had a chance. These injuries are not amenable to surgery at all. What? He's dead. I don't even understand that. What surgery are you talking about? Anyway. At the same time, there are 5, possibly up to 10 potentially life-ending injuries. It's not just one. That's true. So in other words, he's got so many injuries, and I will show you each one of the injuries he has. It's massive. So yeah, he wouldn't have been saved no matter what. I think that's what he was trying to say. All right. This is very unusual, and he talks about air entering the skull. So then he says, my guess is it would be injury by several different things at the same time, namely several different people at the same time. Okay, that is nonsense. Because you have several different injuries at the same time, And when we say same time, we're talking within seconds. Doesn't mean several different people had to commit those injuries. It could be one person or it could be one vehicle. And so now you have to believe when you're going to see the injuries, you're going to see what I'm saying. What he's saying is he's being beaten by a group, and the family seems to believe that too. And you wonder, what the hell could Noah have done so bad, which a guy that everybody liked, that they like crushed him, beat the hell out of him, did the most atrocious, they brutalized him, not just gave him a punch in the face. I'm sure the guys punched him out. No, most unbelievable injuries. And I will show you to you in a minute. I want to get to the injuries, but I want to show you, I want to set up everything everybody said, and then I'm going to go through the injuries. Maybe the body was moved. Well, maybe there would be pools of blood, and you're not seeing that. That's not necessarily true. There were not pools of blood on the street. There was just a little bit, but that is not proof that the injury happened elsewhere. Okay, not necessarily. An explanation could be if you're hit with enough force to crack a skull and cause a skull fracture, you would think there's something at the scene that's more than a paper cut. Well, he didn't have a paper cut, but there's not. But if not, there's nothing. It could mean the body was moved. Yes, it could mean the body was moved, that he was attacked someplace else. But the shorts he had on his body actually were clean, the white shorts. So if he were being beaten with the white shorts on, why are the white shorts clean? And somebody said, well, he had the black shorts on. They changed him to the white shorts. No. He already had been back. There's a ton of witnesses that say he went, he was showered, and they put the white pants on, white shorts. And the white shorts didn't have like maybe a little smear of blood, but they didn't have a lot. You would think somebody being beaten this crapless as this guy would have blood everywhere, according to this guy. And it would be on his shorts because things go down. Or if it's just hard to believe. And he's being carried about. Yeah, you'd think there'd be more blood on him and on the shorts, unless they took him back and re-showered him, which is kind of unlikely. If it was thrown from a car, you might have the body rolling and therefore injuries throughout the whole body as opposed to being confined in one area. Even if he hit the road head first, it would distribute the injuries up and down his body. He'd have broken legs from rolling in the road. He didn't have broken legs. So one thing this guy's saying, which I think is correct, is that he wasn't thrown from a vehicle. He could have been placed by the side of the road, but he wasn't thrown from a vehicle. So now we got either he got hit by a vehicle or he got beaten senseless and put in a vehicle or carried, because it wasn't that far from where the party house was. They could have beaten him right there, carried him and just set him on the side of the road so that it would look like he was hit by a vehicle. Or they could put him in the road so he would be hit by a vehicle, which would make more sense. But interesting enough, it doesn't actually look like they laid him in the middle of the road where he would be run over. It doesn't look that way. It looks like that's not exactly what happened. So did they just lay him by the side of the road so it looked like something hit him? Okay, go with that. Then we have some other people that she's referring to. So this is woman, who is her name? I forgot what her name is. Hold on, I gotta move my Dr. Michelle Dupree or something. She looked into another guy's, Stephen Smith's case, and she is a forensic pathologist, retired, and she thinks he was beaten and not hit by a motor vehicle. But the one thing she said, which I thought was kind of fascinating, was she said Stephen Smith still, even though he was hit by a vehicle, I believe, he still had his shoes on, and Noah still had his shoes on. So some of the questions is, if he were actually hit by a vehicle, why would his shoes be on his body? Because when you're slammed like that and you're rolling around, your shoes should flip off, especially if they're just, So why are his shoes still on? So that then would support more that maybe he was just dumped by the side of the road. That's why he had his shoes on. Not explaining why his shorts were in the middle of the road, the white shorts. Why were they there and not on his body? Because he was naked. Would a bunch of teenagers take his shorts off and place them in the road? Is that something teenagers would do? In my opinion, no. I mean, the last thing they want to do is, especially as it was. So theoretically, that's their friend. They want to lay him naked in the road so everybody can see his parts. Is that what friends do? I mean, even though they killed him, but I mean, still, it's a little odd. So then they brought on. She has another guy on here, and his name is, what the hell is his name? Joseph Scott Morgan. He's a distinguished scholar of forensics. And he also says, oh, no, the guy was definitely not hit by a vehicle. And then they bring on Jennifer Coffindaffer, who is her name? Jennifer Coffindaffer. She also says, oh, no, the guy was definitely not hit by a vehicle. And then they bring on Jennifer Coffindaffer, who is her name? Jennifer Coffindaffer. who is not a forensic pathologist, but a FBI profiler. And she says the whole situation doesn't make sense. She says there's no way he got hit by a vehicle. And I just want to point out one of the problems we have with people being brought onto these shows, because I've done this for a lot of my career. I have gotten phone calls saying, Pat, can you talk? Let's say it was a Noah case. Pat, can you talk about Noah and whether he was murdered or he got hit by a vehicle? And when is the show? Oh, it's going to be it's going to be at the top of the hour, and it's now. I've got 55 minutes. Okay, we got a car. We can get a car to you in 10 minutes. Get you to the station within the next 10 minutes. We'll send you some. We'll send you some information on it. So while I'm in the limo going to the TV station, I'm reading these memos, and then I rushed in. I got makeup done quickly and throw me in the chair. And then they say, "So Pat, we're here with criminal profiler Pat Brown. Pat Brown, what do you think happened to Noah?" Well, considering I've only had 20 minutes to look at the information, I'm going to say he has a tremendous amount of injuries and a lot of suspicious people are talking a lot of suspicious stuff. Why does he still have his shoes on? Blah, 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 blah. So I will say something. And then they will say, thank you so much, Pat, and I will leave. And if they have a panel, some people might be more knowledgeable than others, and then they'll argue with each other. But the problem is you're getting a whole bunch of nonsense from people who don't have time or haven't spent it to look through the case, to examine things. Now, at the very end of Stephanie's show, she brings in, but she doesn't show him, but she mentions him. And that's Dr. Bodden, Dr. Michael Bodden. And I went and listened to what he had to say. And I was like, well, this is interesting. Essentially, let's see. What did Dr. Bodden say? Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can figure out where I put it here. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, a second. Hold on. Let me go back to I want to read the transcript for you. Hold on. Oh, Dr. Bodden, where'd you go? Hold on. Oh, maybe it's, hold on. There's many, you never know okay, where is it? I'm going to pull it up from, I don't know if it's in here. Dr. Bodden, Noah Presgrove. Okay. All right. Let's see what he said. Oklahoma authorities hesitant to rule teen's death a homicide, famed pathologists suggest. Now, what does Dr. Bodden say? Dr. Michael Bodden, an American physician and board-certified forensic pathologist known for his work investigating high-profile deaths, told Fox News that Presgrove's death is a terrible case and that the medical examiner's report revealed many details surrounding the night he died. Well, for sure. He had a lot of internal bleeding, so his heart kept pumping for a little bit after he was struck. But if there's a possibility that in an ATV accident, the one he was in the ATV accident, he might have had a punctured lung and was bleeding slowly. And then as he's walking along the highway, see, now remember, he left the house. Let's go back to the picture. This picture, this is what they say happened, that he left. I mean, that's kind of not, people aren't arguing that point, that oops, not that one. He left the party house and walked down that highway. Now, he said he could have been walking along and then he collapses and a truck hits him, causes all the injuries on that account. But that would depend on what condition he was when he got back to the party. All right. And then he says this. Actually, he said more in the actual video, but he's basically saying that he could have had some of the internal injuries prior, and when he was walking that, along with the alcohol, he could have then been struck by a truck, which I thought was interesting. All right. So Stephanie adds that one on as maybe. What I found interesting was there was another fellow on a different channel, and this was going to be on Law and Crime. 7 shocking details of Oklahoma teen Noah Presgrove's death. All right. And this was interesting. I forgot who the woman was who was interviewing, but I disliked her interview technique extremely much. Why? Because I've had that kind of person there. They invite you on for your expert opinion, and when you give it, they don't want to accept it. So they keep badgering you to change your expert opinion. And she kept doing it to this guy, and he was trying so hard to stick to his professional opinion, but at the same time, be a good guest. So this guy, his name is Will Spieler, I think it's his name. Retired commander and homicide detective out of Cook County, Illinois. So she asked him these questions, or what he thought happened. He says, well, considering where he's found, it was possibly struck by a car, but you'd expect some transfer from the car to the body. Now, this is one of the issues about the case, that when a car strikes somebody, the problem is usually if the person's walking along and it hits them like this, you're going to have, first of all, their legs are going to be damaged. His legs were not damaged. And this is a very important point. And also, because the car and got the person here and the car is coming like this, you're going to have damage to both the individual and the vehicle. So you usually have stuff by the side of the road, and there was nothing. So he says, that's problematic. I like this guy. He's correct. That is problematic. But he says this. There are rural roads back in Oklahoma, and I imagine there's a lot of trucks. And that is where I come in. That's a big, getting hit by that or that is real different than being hit by a car. First of all, if you're walking along the side of the road and the truck comes along and the mirror whacks you, and then you fly up, and if you look at this, you see the mirror is, and you can see the part of the truck sticks out in funny ways sometimes, that you can be hit by the mirror and then be hit, then your body can slam into the truck. So that's a possibility. So my thought was never it was a car, but if he was hit by something, it would have been a truck. And that could cause the damage. And so this is what he also thinks. He said his injuries are so significant, I would say it's very difficult to sustain that in a standard beating. Okay. And he's also got some drag marks, which means either was thrown from a vehicle or dragged by a vehicle, or he was thrown in a robe by the killers and he was dragged by a vehicle, or he was simply hit by a vehicle and dragged a little bit by a vehicle. Not that far, but he was. And then he says he's got some injuries to his fingers from the road and gravel, which indicates to me something happened on the road, that kind of thing. And he says he's trying to get along with this group here. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to put that up. I want to put this guy's picture up because I like him. All right, he says, I'm not saying that it's not possible that he did take a beating and then someone dumped him on the side of the road and then he was struck by a vehicle. I'd have to look at the autopsy, see which injuries are post-mortem and antemortem, which is another issue. And I have seen the autopsy. He says, so he's saying it's difficult for me to make a determination of the manner of death. So he's correct. All right. So he's got multiple blunt force injuries for sure. And then she goes on and harasses the living hell out of him. All right. Now, what I'm going to do now is I want to go through the injuries. And I want to show you what I see. And I want to see if you see it too. Okay. So he had bad injuries. Man, did he get messed up. I mean, okay. He had skull fractures. Definitely had skull fractures. And inside those skull fractures, he had brain bleeding. Which, if you're going to get massive skull fractures, you're going to have brain bleeding. It also had a thing called avulsion, which basically like ripped a whole bunch of his head off, scalp off. I'm going to stop here. What would rip his scalp off? What would cause avulsion? I'm going to go to the chat room. I'm going to get you involved in analysis here. Just falling down on a gravel road scrapes my legs up. Yeah, it has some high impact injury, a tire. Okay, let me stop to ask. Where do I want to see? I want to put this. Being hit by a truck mirror could explain his teeth getting knocked out. Could be. The road dragging. It's hard to absolutely say, but I'll tell you this. Avulsion is not uncommon with vehicular deaths. Yes, he was he was tall enough. He was quite tall, 6'2" or something like that. Something lower sticking out of the truck, maybe. Okay, I want to ask you this. Okay, let's say his friends, really terrible friends, his best friend Jack and a bunch of his buddies decided they were pissed off. So they followed him out of the house and they said, "We're mad at you, dude. What do you think they could have done to him that would cause avulsion of his hair? What do you think?" He had, I'm going to get into that, he had some, but minimal. What do you think they could have used? Because if you're going to go one way, you should go the other way. What could they have used that would cause this kind of massive damage to his head? Being dragged by a vehicle. Okay. I don't know. Good answer. A machete. Yeah, I don't think they had those there, but I agree with you. The machete is a good tool. Hatchet, yeah. And this is a great answer. And I think that's the problem. An axe. You start thinking and you go, okay, his hair got stuck on something. Yeah. Hi, Amy. Amy rolled in. Machetes. We got a lot of machetes. Okay. Yes, machetes. I've been in a lot of countries where machetes are a very popular tool, and they will avulse you. Yeah, but you have to understand this is a bunch of kids, and if he went out, what are they taking with them to do him in? I mean, they're all drunk. I mean, could they pick up a golf club, a baseball bat? What are they going to use? Nobody had an accident, not that I know of. So it's very odd that this would happen. Let's go. Let me tell you some of the other injuries. Okay, so his head's all messed up. His neck was broken. His neck was broken at C1 and displaced from the skull. Okay. Now his wrecker ripped his head open, and now they've broken his neck right there to the point where completely off. What did they use to do that? Oh my God. I mean, Allison, they were all drunk. Would they have left evidence? Well, apparently, according to somebody said, the parents came back and used bleach in the house. Parents came back and said, "What the did you do to my house?" I'm sure they just cleaned up. Supposedly, these are masterminded criminals who are like teenagers who are drunk off their butts, decide to kill their best friend and over what seems to be completely stuff that doesn't make any sense. Now, I understand that they could have had that Fight Club thing going and somebody could have given him a good punch and killed him. That's absolutely possible. Somebody could have pushed him and he fell and cracked his head on something. I get that. Accidental death due to stupid behavior, I'm totally for. But now they've ripped his head open, and now they've broken his neck. Guillotine. Well, he didn't have a cut across his neck because that wasn't it. But his neck was completely broken. So that's a lot of damage. That is correct. All right, so let's go look at a few more damages to him. It's not over. Believe me, it's the damage. Wait, hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'm having issues. Okay. Let's look at some more damage. All right. So now his neck is broken. Now his both shoulder blades are fractured. He has 10 rib fractures on the back. 9 vertebrae fractured in the upper and middle back. Holy God Almighty. His whole back is fractured. What the hell? And the shoulders. Man, this is where that one Stephen, whatever his name was, says, "Oh yeah, he was beaten by a whole bunch of guys." Okay, beaten by a whole bunch of guys. with something. What the hell were they beating him with? Him ran over. Well, it's not really proof that he was run over. Maybe he was crawling and was hit by a car. No, I don't see a car involved in this at all. An armored golf cart fell out of a moving car. Doesn't cause that kind of injuries. That's massive. Upper body rolled over, hit by a fast moving truck. The driver, that is more likely, but I'm trying to go back to people killing him because this is where it's either he was hit by something on that road. It was a vehicular accident, or he was murdered by his friends. I mean, those are the two. And some people think he was just murdered by Jack. I mean, Jack, he's not even Jack the Ripper now. He's Jack the Clipper. I don't know what you want to call him, but Jack, his best friend, goes after him, and he manages to break his neck, break all the bones in his back, rip his scalp off. I mean, man, that guy's in a bad mood. I mean, I'm like, what the hell? I mean, really? I mean, no, there was no high place falling. There was no place. He was on the ground. No, there was no high place. It's a prairie, man. Okay. So there's no fall. There's absolutely no fall. So let's go to the next. That's the next one. Okay. So now he's got the bone. His neck is broken. He's got all everything, all this breakage. Okay. He's got internal injuries, which we don't know if it's ATV or just whatever just happened. Here comes the interesting part. Oh, there's a couple interesting parts. Okay. So this is where the scalp was torn off the bone. That's where the top of his head was ripped open. He was bleeding from both ears, which will happen just of impact will cause bleeding from both ears. So that's pretty not interesting. Grazed at the front, cuts on the inner ear. I want you to notice something. Where is all the damage on his face? Can somebody tell me where all the damage on his face is? You've hit kangaroos. Obviously not in the US, although we did have some kangaroos running around in their area. But anyway, left side. Thank you, Clarissa. Oh, thank you, Cauliflower. All on the left side. Now, let's imagine. I wish I had a baseball bat in here. Okay. I got a Diet Pepsi pop. This is probably a very stupid thing to use as a weapon. Okay. I'm freaking drunk. Okay, I'm like really drunk, and I'm like, hey, you look. I don't know, whatever you think. You mess with my girl. I don't know what it is. Whack, 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 whack. Or am I going to go bam-bitty, 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 bam, bam, bam? That's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to be doing this crap. I'm not going to be focused on one side of the face or the other, for God's sakes. So why is everything on the left side of the face? No, I double checked to make sure I did that. Oh, that's a good question. Oh, wait a minute. That's a good point. If his friends were drunk too, would they have the strength to inflict that kind of damage? Well, it depends on what kind of drunk they are. Could they? Yes, but a lot of times half time they can't even hit the person because they keep missing them because they just fall over. That's true. This woman got scalped because her hair was caught in a machine. That can be true. Allison, all on one side of the roadside. The left side. Now, theoretically, if you're walking along the road and you see a truck coming, usually if you're going to get out of the way if you're facing the truck. If you're walking on the other side of the road, which you should never do, by the way. I don't know how many times I've told my granddaughter this. You never walk with traffic. You always walk facing traffic. That way you can see them coming. You know, if you need to jump out of the way if somebody's like swerving or something or not paying it, they're on their phone and their car's starting to drift, you at least can jump into the freaking bushes. But if you're walking with traffic, which I think is the dumbest thing ever, I drive along, I see somebody walking with traffic right on the side of the road. I'm thinking, you dumbass. What if I'm just not paying attention? I drift off the road and I just whack you. Are you a moron or what? But a lot of people do that. So if you're walking with traffic, what's going to get hit is the left side of your face. So that to me is the most interesting point of all the damage it's done to poor Noah here. Would it depend whether he's on the ground? Yes. Okay. Cauliflower has pointed that out. Wouldn't that depend on whether or not he was on the ground? Yes, I do not think he was on the ground. Because of the left side damage to his face, I don't believe for a minute he was laying in the middle of the road. Because I think a whole bunch of other things. His legs would have been broken. There'd be tire marks all over him. He'd get crushed. I think a whole bunch of other things would happen. I don't think he was laying in the road. I think because of the damage on the left side of his face, that is the most likely thing, that he got hit by something, whacked into something, and then whatever happened after that. Because when you get hit by a Mack truck going 60 some miles an hour, it's not a small thing. Okay. And your body, we can't even understand how it works. But if you're, let's say, coming through here and you get this thing hits you and it vulses your head. This is the mirror. It vulses your head. And then where do you go? Well, your face can smash into something, and then your body can smash into the rest of the truck, and whack, 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 boom. A whole bunch of things happen. And because we could do, I guess I could do a reenactment of that with like a dummy or something like that. That would be interesting. But hard to say. Now, there's another interesting thing about this that I want to point out, which is the rest of his body. All right. He's got grazes, and his teeth were broken. So obviously something ended up hitting his mouth. He had some, now it's interesting here. He had some patchy grazes across the left side of his torso, grazes on his knees and his legs, which to me, grazes, we're talking about grazes. Do you see any defense wounds? Check it out. The guy's being beaten by a whole bunch of guys. Do you see any defense wounds on his body? If they're hitting him with, I don't know, baseball bats and crap, his arms aren't broken, his legs aren't broken. He's got no damage to anything. He's got no damage even to his hands. It's not like he put up his hands to block his face. He didn't do anything. If he were on the ground, he would curl up and he would try to block his head with his arms. His arms would be busted. His arms aren't busted. His arms have no damage. His hands have no damage. Only thing he's got is a little scrapes on his hands, scrapes on his body. And that's about it. And some gravel. Yeah, that's about it. And a road rash on his upper back. So, yeah. Good for you. You're taught to walk. You should be facing traffic. That's absolutely sure. Yes, no defense wounds. I don't care. He was drunk, but he was not drunk enough that somebody's coming after him. Now you could theorize that when they whacked him the first time, somebody whacked him the first time, that he then became unconscious, so they just kept beating him. But again, they're drunks. So if they whacked him unconscious, he falls to the ground, they keep beating on him. Why aren't his arms or his legs having any kind of damage? How would they just be damaging his neck? How would they break his freaking neck and the ribs? To me, that's vehicular. That's when you're hit by a freaking Mack truck. That will bust your head right off of your body, smash up your back in a heartbeat. All of that stuff, to me, is getting hit by something very large, not even just a regular car. A regular car will do a lot of damage to your shins, your feet. And again, I agree that there should be more things laying on the road, like, damage from a car. And you might think it's a deer, but that he would have that much damage from a car mirror and then just flip off to the side of the road. No, I don't believe it. So he'd have to be literally in front of the car. And then there'll be damage to the car. And the guy would probably have stopped and said, oh my God, some guy ran out in front of me. Now, a truck, guy may never have known he hit anybody. It's dark out there. May have thought it was a deer. I've been hit by deer in my area. I did see the deer, but but you could think, what the hell was that? And then assume it was a deer because you're in the middle of freaking nowhere at 4:00 in the morning or whatever. And you just keep driving. And people say, well, why wouldn't he come back and say, well, once he found out that, why doesn't he put the family to peace? Why doesn't he just say, hey, I hit him? I'm going to tell you why. Because a lot of people do not want to get involved in possibly getting charged with manslaughter, hit and run, leaving the scene of an accident. When he said, well, I didn't know it was a guy. I thought it was a damn deer. You can leave the scene of an accident of a deer. That's not illegal. But my God, if I go back and tell him it turns out to be a dude, I'm going to lose my trucking license. I'm going to lose my livelihood. I may end up in prison. Hell, I'm not going to say I was out there and hit that guy. I mean, I understand that entirely. I've seen too many cases where people say, why didn't that guy come forward? Because they're not stupid. They're not stupid. They know that coming forward is taking such a huge risk. They're just not willing to do it because they're not going to destroy their whole life over a kid who foolishly may have gotten drunk and walking to the road. They're not going to ruin their life. They got wife and kids back home. Maybe they're not from Oklahoma. Maybe they're from Montana. They're driving all the way through the country. They're through truckers or something. But whatever. Just because somebody didn't admit something doesn't mean it's not true, that they didn't do it, they didn't hit them. And the second thing is, there's no damage supposedly. I mean, from the vehicle. Again, a major truck may not have damage, or it may have damaged the truck, but not left the evidence in the road where he goes later and goes, damn, what happened to my mirror? But it may not have actually left the pieces. Now they searched for them, and also doesn't mean they didn't. Just because they searched for something doesn't mean they couldn't have missed it. Now people always want to say, oh, they searched, therefore they didn't find it, therefore it's going to happen. No, sometimes they actually just miss stuff, for whatever reasons. Is it possible that if the trucker hit him, that he pulled off to the side of the road and went back and looked for stuff? Oh my God, that's part of my mirror, and walked away with it? I mean, it's possible. I don't think it's probable, but it's possible. How he had the exact methodology of how he might have been hit. I think he was standing up when he was hit. That's my personal opinion. I see nothing that shows this to be a mass murder of a bunch of drunk kids. I think it's outrageous. I think there's no way they would have done this to their friend to that extent. That's not how I see. I've seen kids get beat up before. This is not it. And certainly one guy didn't do this. And this stuff wouldn't happen with punches. They would have had to use objects to beat him to death, to cause all the damage. The damage is so massive to me, it's a Mack truck. That's what is so obvious to me. Now, how he got hit again. Okay, so could he have been beat up and then thrown into the road? I just don't think he was laying in the road when he got. I don't see the damage to him. Now, I'm not a forensic pathologist, so you can say, hey, you don't know what you're talking about, and that's okay with me. But I don't see the kind of damage done to him was because his body was thrown into the road. If his body was laying across the road, first of all, the trucker would have seen what the hell, and you'd have some broken legs. You'd have the body would go, you'd have a whole different thing with road rash and avulsion. You'd have avulsion on other body parts and not just the head. So I don't believe for a minute that the body was laid across the road. Now, could they have harmed him and laid him on the side of the road, and somehow he got hit on the side of the road, and it would have to be then a tire hit him? I don't see that I don't personally see that the damage to his body matches up to that, because I think he got hit with great force and not by a bunch of kids punching him. I think the great force came from being hit at 60 miles an hour and having his body go boom somehow. So I'm with Dr. Bodden and I'm definitely like this guy the guy that was interviewed on Fox. I think he has the same viewpoint I have and was trying hard to stick with it until he got pushed. But I really liked what he had to say, because I thought his was the most rational. Let me see. I want to go back. What did I do with this? I want to just put up his name again. Oh, what was his name? I just want his name because I liked him. Okay, where's his name? Oh, I just want to give him some credit because I think he was. Where is it? Yeah. What's his name? Stiller? Okay, where is it on here? Gosh, no, it's not a private investigator. They did hire some private investigators. And that's when she goes off into her. Let me put his picture up there again, because I just appreciate him and I want to give him credit. There he is. I just don't know where he went on the name of the guy here. I want to. Okay, let's see if I can find it. I just want to give him some credit. Will Spieler, Spelar, I think, but that's from a transcript. Will Spieler. I like that guy. So A lot of people asked me about this case for so long because so many people believe he was murdered by his friends, and the gossip is out there. And for YouTubers, this is where your money is made, by going along with the rabbit hole. I don't see it. I see it. He was seen leaving the house drunk, put on a couple of different pairs, put on somebody else, one shoe of his, one shoe of his other friend, had the white shorts on. He's found very nearby on the side of the road with massive injuries. I can't see that anything happened here except that he got hit by a very large truck. I think Baden and what's his name? Sorry, Will Spieler, tend toward that direction, and I respect what they say. And everybody else, I think, is just coming out and throwing out stuff that is popular within the media and popular on YouTube, because that's what people want to hear. I don't say what people want to hear. I say that makes sense to me. And I would hope, and if the family is watching at some point, if somebody tells the family to watch this show, you're willing to say, if something which went wrong at the party and everybody just was, they did something, they beat him up and they didn't mean to kill him, we can accept that. Well, I would want to think that you would rather accept that it was just a silly accident in the sense that, all of them are having fun and partying, and he just happened to walk out and just happened to, for whatever reason, maybe because of the ATV accident, maybe it was a little off in the brain at that moment, wasn't thinking clearly, and therefore he walked too close to the side of the road and got hit. He's a great guy who just had a bad moment in his life that caused his death. I think that's a better thing to think than his best friend and a bunch of other friends murdered him because they thought he had bad behavior. I mean, I think that's a horrible thing to live with. Personally, I think you should just go with just a bad accident. I mean, all of our kids do some things that are not the brightest things all the time. We do foolish things. We're under intoxication or drugs. We just don't have as much sense as we should have. And I have two boys and a daughter. And all I can say is that I've heard some stories from my two boys, and I'm just lucky they're still here, because they did some stuff that wasn't that bright. And they could have been easily just killed, driving their car too fast around a curve, go right into a tree. They weren't murdered. It's just that age. It's that age that the police chief was trying to get these kids through, because sometimes with enough alcohol and that youthfulness and the energy they have, they just do stuff that just, and he could have walked down this thing and just gone to sleep on the side of the road and been perfectly fine. He could have just said, what am I doing? Turned around and walked back and re-entered the house and said, hey guys, I'm back. He just got unlucky. He got unlucky. And I think for myself, that's what I would prefer to believe. My son got unlucky than his friends and his best friend beat him to death. So if you're the family and somebody tells you to watch my video, I hope that can bring you peace, because I think all these other people just continuing stirring up this stuff over and over again, it's going to go on I'm going to tell you, I've had too many clients who've asked me to prove that their child was murdered. And I most of the time, 90% of the time, it's not a murder. It's an accident or a suicide. 90% of the time. I've had a very few cases that it is actually a homicide. But rather than spend the next 10 to 20 years of your life trying to prove something that there may be no proof that to be proven, and to hate and to be angry with everybody for harming your son, maybe it would be just better to accept that maybe it's just a bad accident and let it go, and appreciate the time you have with your son. Now, could I be wrong? I mean, there's going to be people out there, obviously a whole bunch of people out there who will say Pat Brown is not correct. We see that there's no way this could have been vehicular homicide. I mean, a vehicular accident. It couldn't be. She's wrong. She's no forensic pathologist. Some people say I'm no profiler either. They'll go on and say whatever they want to say. I'm not saying absolutely I can prove I'm right, because this is one of these weird cases where, because it's so complicated, I think it's the medical stuff that's more complicated than this all gossipy stuff. I think all the gossipy stuff proves absolutely nothing about him being killed by his friends. Absolutely. I see not one shred of evidence that his friends killed him. That I want to point out right up front. Not one shred of evidence that his injuries seem like they could be something that his friends could commit and get away with and never talk about. I just don't buy that for a minute. So the logic puts me on that road with him just getting hit by a truck. That's logic. And can I explain every single bit of things that happen to his body? No, because when you get hit by a truck, as I said, it's almost like a pinball machine. You know, boom, 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 boom. Things happen in such a split second. The body, the force can cause so much weird injuries that you just can't say, oh, well, you know, I know exactly what happened. You can't. And therefore, but logic says him getting hit by a truck makes, my opinion, great sense. And him getting beaten up by his best friend and his friends and somehow managing to cause all those injuries, breaking his neck and all his ribs and avulsing his head and then chucking him into a road. That's just so ridiculous. So absolutely, in my opinion, ridiculous that I will go with an accidental death. Somebody can prove me wrong one day, fine. But I'm going to stick with it for now because I don't see it. Logic just takes me there. Logic takes me there. Let me check some of your comments. Harpa says, agree, truck is most likely. Poor friends, you know, yeah. And, you know, a lot of there's some who are friends and there's some people who are just gossips and there's some people who like to cause trouble. And so they're all over the, you know, their Facebook page and stuff, saying a whole bunch of nonsense. And a lot of them are so drunk, they don't even remember that freaking night anyway. And, you know, and not everybody's a nice guy. You know, got 40 friends, and I don't know who is saying whatever they're saying. So you could get everybody trying to be, you know, fair and reasonable. And then you could get one person who's just not a nice person. And they don't mind. Maybe they're a pathological liar and they'll just make a whole bunch of stuff. So you got to be very careful of when people go public talking about stuff that happened during a very short period of time when everybody was trash drunk. So 19, I believe, is 19 years old. Oh, thank you, Princess. I don't think you're wrong. Well, somebody will. But, oh, Cheryl, so many local guys walking home drunk in the dark and got knocked down and killed instantly. And do you know what they're doing? They're wearing black clothing. I'm like, stop wearing black clothing when you're walking down the side of a road, especially if you happen to be black. I live in an African-American community. Let me tell you, if you're black and in black clothing, not a good thing. Also, we have the same problem with bicyclists. Oh my God, they drive me nuts. And I'm like, okay, you're riding a bicycle again. You have to go with traffic. So you're in a situation where they can run you over. And here you are. You're supposed to have a flashing red light on the back of your bicycle. You're supposed to be wearing fluorescent clothing, for God's sakes, bright orange or whatever. And yet I have driven down the highway and seeing, and I'm not talking about a little local dude, you know, he's got his little bike down the highway. I'm talking about a biker who's on a $1,000 bike wearing his biking clothes. And his biking clothes are all black and he doesn't have a flashing light. And I could just run him right over. I'm like, what the? And my granddaughter, I'm like, she goes, there's one of them, Grandma. See, he's not wearing the right clothes. He doesn't have a light. I'm like, what's wrong with you people? For God's sakes, do you understand that people can't see you? Especially at night, they can't see, but it's even hard at dusk, dawn, even sometimes during the day, you don't stand out. And if you're going to ride a bicycle on the road, for God's sakes, do everything you can to be like a blazing sign of I'm here, so people don't run you the hell over. But I've seen it. I mean, in our neighborhood, I've seen it. I don't know how many times I've seen people in black clothing. I think it's cool looking or something. I just don't get it. It's like, wear the freaking fluorescent and have the light on the back. And people walking. If you're going to walk against traffic. And if you're going to walk at night, for God's sakes, either recognize the fact that they can't see you, even if you're walking toward them. And because your clothes are just, you just don't stand out. And, but this is what people do. So he actually did have some white shorts on, which is better than the black shorts. And he actually is he's not African-American. So at least maybe his skin's light enough. He could be seen. But for a trucker going down a road, who knows? Because, it's also hard to say where he was and what the trucker was doing at the time. Your trucker's going down a lone road at 4:00 in the morning. Is he really paying attention to what's on this side of the road? Or is he looking at the oncoming traffic? Was he blinded by light? And then suddenly, boom, never assume. It makes an ass out of you and me. Never assume that people can see you. When you walk across a crosswalk, never assume that the damn car is going to stop just because you're in a crosswalk. I've seen people do that. They're like bolt out from, it's a crosswalk, but you don't have to stop for a crosswalk unless somebody is in it. When a person freaking bolts out of there, you're going 30, 40 miles an hour and this person decides to run across the street in front of you. You don't even have time to stop and not hit him. So I don't care if you're in the freaking crosswalk. Didn't see you until it was too late. So, the concept that even if you have the right of way, just assume that they're going to hit you and make sure that you don't get hit. But, when you're, for Noah, if you're drunk in the middle of the night and just wandering around, maybe it's not the brightest thing, but you are probably drunk and young. So, you do those stupid things. That he was young and drunk and just wandered off and just had a bad accident, or all of his friends or his best friend just beat him into oblivion and covered it all up and then threw. By the way, the chain on his neck was supposedly broken in 3 places on the road. This is supposedly his grandmother's chain. I forgot to mention this. Supposedly, why are they actually going to beat the living crap out of him and then pick up his teeth, pick up the chain, and then go to the road and throw it all in the road? I mean, are they? Wow, that's pretty good. Or it's not just something that happened when he got nailed by a truck. The necklace broke, the teeth broke out of his mouth, and they fell on the road. This might be a case, of what? Tell me what it might be a case of. What's the famous saying that it could be a case of? Oh, good for you. I rode my bike all over town, so I would put on my fluorescent jacket and had several lights. Good for you. I agree. People don't see you from a car. They just don't. I mean, it might be nice, but so what's the statement when something is just more likely than anything else? The simplest explanation. What is the state? What is the? Yeah, well, not in the middle of Oklahoma, in the middle of nowhere. Thank you, Harpa. Occam's razor. Occam's razor is reasonable in this case because if you take a look at what are the chances of him just after he walks away, and I don't even know who knew he left, except a few people knew he walked away. Nobody was seen following him. So the fact that he walks away down right on the road that he ends up dead on with massive injuries, or his friends, nobody's talking about, somehow follow him out and beat him to death with unknown objects to such a state, but he has no defense wounds. I mean, Occam's razor is extremely clear in this particular instance. Yeah. So thank you for that would be reasonable to me, and I'm just kind of shocked that this case has got so many experts who just are like, it's like, are they in the courtroom for the defense or something? I mean, you know what I mean? Well, in this case, they'd be for the prosecution. Yeah, it'll be for the prosecution because they're going to blame somebody else. So, yeah, they're going to blame somebody. So they're all blaming these young people. So they're all actually working for the prosecution. and a couple of them are working for the defense. I might be working for the defense in this. But it's just sad because, and again, it's an undetermined death because it is difficult to figure out. But there's at this point, it was 23, 24. Okay, so we're about a year and a half out, and there's no conclusion, and there may never be a conclusion because they can't prove one thing or the other, so they're just going to let it just sit there. But I think the family's going to go on for. And all these YouTubers and everybody else trying to prove that he was murdered, and I just think it's sad because I just don't see one shred of evidence that this wasn't a vehicular. I just don't see a shred of evidence he was attacked. I just don't. So, but I know it's not the popular analysis here. So. Oh, Cauliflower says people don't want to believe logic anymore. I think the problem is once a time logic was used in a specific place where it wasn't overly challenged like every second of the day. And with the internet with 24/7 media, it makes a good story to challenge. Rabbit holes they make you money. And if you're going to be stupid enough to actually go with Occam's razor, you ain't gonna make money. And you can't do 50 more videos. I point this out. It's just that it's not popular because it doesn't get people involved and angry and enraged and all this stuff. It doesn't support, especially what the family wants to believe it's what it is. They think it is, that it's that he was killed, and not he was killed by his friends. They want to believe this. They're pushing it. The Facebook pages are out there. You can jump on board and you can be relevant. You can feel like you're helping. Because you can feel sorry. You can talk to the parents. You can, oh, I'm so sorry for what happened to Noah. I think that his friend is just awful. I think that his friend definitely did it. I think that his girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. You can just get so freaking involved. And it becomes like an alternate universe where the internet and the family and social media all collide and collude. And creating this alternate universe where everybody gets to feel like they're accomplishing something when they're not, and that they're getting to the truth when they're not, because it just keeps people busier, where truth sometimes just stops, and it's a reality, and it's just over, and people don't like that terrible much. But I just think it was a very sad case in that I think there's a lovely young man who had his whole life ahead of him and lost it over one stupid night of partying. And a lot of those partiers, people say, well, they shouldn't have been partying like that. Well, I agree. Personally, I think a lot of that partying stuff is kind of repulsive. I think it's gotten to the point of really so much bad behavior involved. I don't like it. But the majority of people who participate in partying and bad behavior, most of them survive and then get to that point where the police chief says they finally got smart enough to realize I shouldn't do that shit anymore. And they stop. And they go on and they get married and have kids and have good jobs and do wonderful things in life. But, in our society, in certain areas of a society, we have certain cultural things and societal things over and today and in the past and in the future, whatever, that there's this group which has very conservative, shall we say conservative? When I say conservative, I don't mean politically conservative. I don't mean religiously conservative, just conservative behavior. In that the people in that group they don't involve themselves in a lot of dangerous behaviors. In other words, not so much, they're not drinking, drugging, they're not going partying, and they're not on all the dating apps and going out with complete strangers. They just may be more conservative in their handling of life. Maybe they're very successful in school and they want to go on to be a doctor, so they just don't want to take these chances. Maybe they're involved in, let's say, they're equestrians and they're involved in horses. They spend all the time taking care of horses and they don't have time for this other stuff. Maybe they're of a particular group of people culturally that doesn't get involved in these things. I know I have a lot of Indian American friends whose kids have grown up in the U.S. and are Americans, but their behaviors are very conservative. Because they're Hindu, they tend not to drink. They tend to be very involved in family and community. And I'm not saying all of those kids, some of them slip away, you know what I mean? But then I've seen a lot of them just stay very much, they work very hard in school. They would go on to becoming doctors and engineers and dentists and stuff. And they get married and have their children, and their behavior is quite good. And, but not all of our society, and every society has that particular focus. So when it's over here and there's more laxity, shall we say, so that there's a lot of dating or 13 to 14 years old, and then there's people smoking weed and doing gummies, and then they're going to parties and getting drunk. The chances of this group having it's a little more on the dangerous side, more on the wild side, and then your risk level goes up. That's why they look at risk assessment with victimology. If he didn't go to parties, if he stuck with school and the military and sports, maybe not so much of a trouble, but he unfortunately liked partying. But of course, most people went partying came back alive. So, but the risk level does go up. It does. It just does go up. And so when we were raising kids, one of the things is how can we keep them from getting involved in this more risky behavior? Because even though most of the kids will survive, and most of us survived, we were involved in risky behavior, it's still riskier. And sometimes you lose. And of course, there are kids who you think, my God, they did everything absolutely perfectly, and they still ended up dead. You know what I mean? Because it's just like, wow, you couldn't have been a more proper behaved kid, but you still got killed. I mean, sometimes that happens. I mean, not here. So sometimes we survive our risky behavior, and sometimes we don't have any and don't survive. But risky behavior does jack up your chances of having a problem. And I think that's just what happened to Noah. And I think, and I don't think people killed him. I think he just partied, and fortunately, just a tragic accident. That's my opinion. But not everybody's going to agree with me, especially probably all those experts that were on the other shows. Oh, Lord. So the whole area is very conservative in certain ways, but apparently not necessarily with drinking and parties. So it's a kind of, we all have a lot of weird, as I say, it's not necessarily political conservatism or religious conservatism. Sometimes there's other things that also play into everything. It's very common. That's why when you're an investigator or profiler, you can't just say, oh, that area is, let's say that person is involved in, let's say, even if they're in a very strong religious community, doesn't mean they themselves were strongly religious in that community, or that they didn't do things that religious community wouldn't appreciate. So that's, I say, you got to be very careful of that. You got to look at the victim themselves and look at the victimology and say, where does that truth actually lie? What are the facts as opposed to the general area? So, but there are always exceptions. Yeah. And there really are, Princess. And sometimes that'll really screw up a case too, where you have some bizarre, exception. You're like, that's the anomaly I talk about often. And I point out certain cases where if you profile it, 100% it should be this. It should be 99% it should be this, but it's the 1% anomaly. And then you look like a damn fool because it was an anomaly. And you go, never saw that coming, because it's something that's so out of norm that an investigator wouldn't go there. And I always think of what's her, okay. Somebody help me out here. The woman who killed the little girl, put her in the suitcase. Somebody help me out with this anomaly, because almost everybody got this one wrong. Who is it? It was somebody help me. Somebody help me. The woman who was like a teacher or a Sunday school teacher, the little girl came over to her house and she killed her and put her in a suitcase. And it looked like it was like a sex predator. Not Lindsay Clancy. She killed 3 of her kids. That was a mommy. No, not Staunch. Shoot. Okay, let's do not Casey Anthony. We already no. Come on. No, those are moms. This was a friend. This was the little girl's friend's mother who killed her. I've done a show. I think I did the show on this too. But you know me and names. Okay, wait a minute. This is where my search comes in. Sandra, thank you. Sandra Cantu. Ooh. Thank you. Thank you, Alexandra. Mary. No, Sandra Cantu. That was the case. Yes. Yep. Sandra Cantu. And that was such a bizarre case in that because the little girl she went walking away from her house and she ends up murdered. You think it's a male sex predator. So when all the people, and it might have been me, also on TV, this is where you wish it wasn't forever. You're like, what do you think, Pat Brown? Well, it looks like it could be a child sex predator. So we should be looking for a male in his 20s or 30s. And it turns out to be her friend's mother. It's like, could you just take that video down, please? Who knew? I mean, that was such an anomaly. And those exist. And that's why the old don't get tunnel vision is important. But also sometimes you just get screwed because it's such an anomaly. The Cantu case. No, Susan Smith. She just killed the kids. I mean, that's actually mothers killing the kids that's not an anomaly. Lots of mothers kill their children. Lots of guys kill their children too, but a lot of women kill their children. So that's not an anomaly. What's an anomaly, it seems to be a problem, is that they always think that the women, they're oftentimes not mad at the women for killing the children. They just think they had some psychological problem. But the men kill the children, and they're like, fry them, Yeah. Because that's not an anomaly. She just wanted to get rid of the boy so she could have a boyfriend. And Darlie, well, she just wanted to get rid of him. So that's not an anomaly. An anomaly is when you have your playmate's mother kill you. Who's like, that's just bizarre. So, oh, well, that's true. That's true. I mean, well, she's a psychopath, and I will say the P word, psychopath. Yeah. So anyway, that's my thoughts on this case. I just think it's just a very sad case, but I just think it's been hijacked by this rabbit hole of all the friends are involved, or that his best friend is involved. And until they can prove that there's any truth to that, I think that going with Occam's razor, and it was a vehicular homicide. I mean, a vehicular accident with a Mack truck that he's just in the road. Because I look at those pictures and I look at the damage to his body, and I see he's hit by a truck. I don't see that all his friends are breaking his neck and all his ribs and his back, and then they're ripping his scalp off, and yet he's got no defense wounds anyplace. It just makes no sense to me. So I stick with my. I almost made it through the live without a P word. I did because I see no psychopathy involved in this case at all, except maybe some YouTubers might have some, because they don't necessarily care about the truth and they don't really want to present things. They just want to. I'm particularly annoyed with the one who straight up made the claim that he was murdered by his friends. I think that's appalling. Yellow tape. Yeah, I had to stop watching halfway through because I was pissed off. Stephanie, she's been cagey about it. I wasn't so bothered by hers, but this guy, twisted case, beaten by his friends and dumped on the highway. You made that as a statement. You got 250,000 views on it. It's 250,000? Nope. Almost 400,000 views on it. You made a jackload of money off of this, and you have zero proof, and I find it appalling. So I might call you a grifter, because maybe you are one. So I don't like it. If you're going to present a case, don't present well, obviously the thumbnail makes a difference. When you put a thumbnail out there like that gets people's attention. And then if you present it as this is what happened, people get all invested in it. I just think it's appalling, because I just think it's not honest. And that's what it is. It's not honest. And yeah, I can't respect that. I can't. So that's just me. And so that friend should sue Yellow Tape. Well, these things are almost impossible to pursue. So, that's why they get away with it. Almost 400,000 views. And I can tell you, that's a moneymaker. That person walked away with, oh my God, that's a lot of money. And 400,000 views is a huge amount of money. He could probably buy himself a car with that. But there's, there isn't. Well, the regulation issue, in theory, well, yes, I've been regulated by YouTube. They don't like my content when I'm on certain things, and they demonetize me for telling the truth usually. But the YouTube cannot determine whether a person is being libelous or not. That's reasonable to understand. Misinformation, when that's thrown around, is also nonsense. Is it misinformation? Or whose viewpoint of whether it's misinformation or not? If I say yay and he says nay, which one of us is misinforming? So I understand YouTube can't get involved in that. What they do is allow you to then pursue it legally yourself, which is almost impossible unless you're a very, very large YouTube channel, in which case you're rich as shit and you're a big company, and you can get the smaller guy. But the smaller guy trying to get, basically, I've learned I'm just screwed. If people steal my stuff, they plagiarize me, they lie about me, I'm just like, oh, well, whatever. I move on in life now, because I've tried a couple times to stand up, and there's no process to do that outside of hiring a lawyer and going through a huge legal process, which is not worth it. So there you go. Clickbait. Well, clickbait, yes and no. Clickbait in the sense that, in theory, you're advertising whatever you're putting out there. And I can't blame people for advertising. I can't. What I can blame people for is when they're advertising in a way that I think is not telling the truth. He's advertising as if this is true, that these people killed him. His friends killed him. That's what he said in his clickbait. So I call that clickbait because it's a complete, absolute lie, because he doesn't know it's true. Now, if he said maybe, at least Stephanie did that. She goes, is it this? And I say here, myself, bad accident or bad friends. Do you want to call that clickbait? I'm asking a question. It could be this, it could be that, but I'm not going there yet. But if I say his friends killed him, I'm making actually a statement based on what? Do I have the facts to prove that his friends killed him when the police haven't even said that's true? That can be absolutely 100% libelous. Now, could his friends have killed him? Is not a libelous statement. So it's always a very tricky area. And people want to advertise a channel, they have the right to do that because they're trying to survive. They're trying to, on YouTube, it's not very easy to survive. And so people do things and people tell you all the time, you got to make thumbnails that'll catch people's attention. I do not do that. I do not have any eye-catching thumbnails. I have a gray thing around all of my case files have a gray thing around them and says profile Pat Brown, and it says what the content is. Sometimes I have a cute picture. I do some funny things. That's my clickbaity thing. But I don't have big, huge, like murder across my screen. Why don't I do that? Because I'm a criminal profiler. I want it to look educational. But, I do my best to try to stay within the educational frame. But a lot of people aren't into education. They're into storytelling and into making money. And that's their thing. They're a YouTuber. They're not an educator. They're a YouTuber, a content creator. Some people are such content creators. They create content and they unbox things, and then they have an animal channel, and then they have a travel channel. They like content. They create content everywhere, and maybe they do a good job. Then there's people who are focused on specific things, and I can't judge those people for wanting to be successful. I think that's okay. I just don't like it when it's absolutely not based on anything truthful. That bothers me. So there you go. Oh, thank you, Allison. I'm glad. But that's the way it is. Anyway, that's it for today. If you're new to the channel and still here, please do subscribe. Check my playlists. Click on Patreon. Join that. Let's see what else. I got books for sale. They're down there too. See, I got to promote myself. Check my other channel, Dear Profiler Pet. So anyway, I avoided this case for a really long time. And because I was having issues with what I was seeing coming out was so vague that, but I'm glad I finally did it. I thought there was enough there to actually do that. Princess, you could do your makeup. No, I can't even do the most basic makeup. My makeup takes me exactly 5 minutes or less because I have no talent. And I miss the days when I used to do television and they used to do my great makeup. And so now I just use the thing that says, do you want to make it look better? I'm like, yes, go over here. So I cheat now. I have no talent. I have no talent with hair either. I just have no talent. But I used to get my hair done, my makeup done. Those days are gone. So yes, I mean, the people who do their makeup while they do their shows, some of it's amazing makeup. I'm like, wow. And if they tell a good story while they're doing the makeup, I see why it's popular. It's like, that's pretty cool. It catches your attention both visually and you listen to a story. So, as long as they're just doing storytelling and not analyzing incorrectly, I'm okay with that. It just, they found a clever methodology of providing content to the public, and they're making a crap load of money. Bully for them, It's like, I ain't gonna do it because I can't do makeup. Wait a minute, a makeup. That is so true. By the way, speaking of that, it's kind of funny. So yes, I do. I used to use just the Face app for my thumbnails because when I saw my thumbnails, I'm like, oh, I can't put that up because time has gone on. I'm 69 years old, and my, it's like, oh man, that's hideous. It's bad enough even with the makeup filter on. But so I just used it for my YouTube video. I mean my thumbnails. And then, but now they have it on StreamYard. You can also do it on video now, so you don't have to look so shitty during your video. But if you look at my old videos, you'll see what I mean. But there's a woman out there, the one who was threatening to. She sent her lawyers after me for telling the truth. But anyway, it's really funny because she is selling some products like $80 a shot with like these little pendants, and the pendants will make you look better and get rid of your gray hair and all this stuff. And people, they're saying to her, because she's exactly the same age as me, like, oh my God, it must be working for you. I'm like, no, she's using a filter. You idiots. You just paid $80 for something. You just should have paid for the filter. It's like, it was obvious that's what she was using, because I looked at her old videos and she's like, and now she's like, It's pretty funny. Oh my God. But we have to have a sense of humor. We must have a sense of humor, or we'll lose our damn minds. So anyway, that's it for today. I'll see all of you back this week for the Hangout, who are my patrons. Hopefully see you for the Hangout. Send along your requests, of course. And what are we on Sunday? Yeah, we are. Okay. So yeah, I will see you somewhere during the week. Thank you for being here. And again, new to the channel. Keep this channel going one way or the other, please. Struggle along. But I do, people ask me why I do, some people don't do any chat rooms, and they just do their videos straight. And I really love having you guys in the chat room. Maybe it's because I live alone. I'm a pitiful older woman living alone. But I like the camaraderie. I like the communication. I like getting to know you guys. It makes it much. I couldn't do just videos. I mean, I'd lose my mind if I just did videos. I feel like I was living in a cave or a closet, So I truly appreciate everybody's in the chat room. I do. It makes my day. So, and it's much more fun. So thank you for being here, and I will see you soon. Bye.